In the winter of 1970, the Perron family moved into what they thought was their dream house in rural Rhode Island. Everything seemed pretty normal at first, other than it being winter with snow everywhere, so the children were kind of forced to stay inside, and they were a pretty big family too, so the house was alive and noisy with activity. For a bit, nothing really seemed amiss, but they did receive a bizarre warning from the original owners. This was the first indicator that something strange was going down, despite it being so vague. They told them, "For the sake of your family, leave the lights on at night." But when the weird stuff started kicking in, it went straight to being utterly horrifying. In the dead of night, Carolyn Perron awoke to the creepiest thing she'd ever seen. Before her was an extremely tall woman in an old gray dress with her head hanging to the side that looked analogous to a sack of cobwebs. Frozen with fear, Carolyn could do nothing but stare. The entity then spoke, telling her, get out, I'll drive you out with death and gloom." Things began to move on their own in the home without explanation, and the children began to see spirits, which caused a ton of panic. It wasn't long before everyone in the house was a full-fledged believer in the paranormal. Upon investigating the history of the home, Carolyn discovered some pretty disturbing things. There were 8 generations of the family who'd lived in the home. Not only this, but they all either died in mysterious ways, or were outright murdered, or committed suicide. So basically low-hanging fruit for high strangeness to occur. There were even children who died from drowning on the property. Now, this investigation of the home's history actually took place over years, so the family put up with this craziness for a long time, even getting used to the unique spirits that roamed the old house. They could match the spirits with the actual people who once lived there based on their research. Many seemed to be oblivious to the fact they were even dead. A man with a crooked smile, who appeared in the corner of the girls' room as they played, was particularly creepy, but stereotypical poltergeist phenomena was also a common thing there, with furniture and household objects seemingly having minds of their own. Doors and cupboards would open and close without anyone near them, and disembodied sweeping could be heard constantly at night. For the most part, though, the spirits in the home seemed to be non-aggressive, lost in their own world that didn't exist anymore, and oblivious to the family's presence. That is, other than the creepy bent-neck lady who told Carolyn Perron to get out that one night when she was sleeping. But after staying there for a while, other more sinister entities in the home began to make their presence known, or finally become aware of the invading family that was trespassing in their home. The poltergeist activity would steadily increase over the years, and more the malicious entities were assaulting the family members in extremely traumatizing ways. This is when they contacted Ed and Lorraine Warren, the infamous paranormal investigators. Soon after the Warrens' arrival, they performed a seance, and Carolyn began speaking to them in a foreign language that she could have no way of knowing. Then they looked on in horror as the woman was thrown around the room like a rag doll. After this frightful experience, the Warrens were definitely ready to take on such a creepy case. They had already made a name for themselves at this point, and were already pretty well known for the Amityville haunting, and went about trying to save the family from the supernatural predators haunting them. And if this sounds kind of familiar, that's because there was a pretty popular movie based on it called The Conjuring, which is actually a pretty good movie, and is actually kind of scary and thrilling while only being PG-13. But that movie is based on this real-life case by the Warrens. However, the thing is the real-life case and the movie are very different. In the real case, no matter what they did in their quest to cleanse the house of evil, they just caused more paranormal activity to happen. It just got worse and worse and more dangerous. which is in pretty stark contrast to the movie The Conjuring because the Warrens actually failed this case in more ways than one. They said that they couldn't perform an exorcism because the family was not religious. They told the parents to just get out of the house and that it might be dangerous for them to stay, but not everybody's got cash to just get up and move, now do they? They couldn't leave the house because of financial issues. The family was forced to endure the horrible haunting for a decade until the family could finally afford to move out. And after the Warrens made it worse and worse, they basically were just kicked out of the house and fired from the paranormal investigation case. The daughter has written a best-selling book called House of Darkness, which is her account of all the stuff that happened during the Perron Family Haunting. In the movie The Conjuring, they have much more of a climactic and happy ending. But in the real world, the suffering was far from over after the Warrens left.